and welcome to another podcast. I'm your host, Mercedes Pollmeier, and today I'm going to be talking about how many times you should be trying a climb before giving up. This is a common question I get from new trainees who aren't really accustomed to projecting. And so this does tie nicely into the benefits of projecting and also for those who might avoid projecting altogether. So if this sounds like something you resonate with, this episode is for you, and continue listening. So today we're going to be digging into the strategy and the art of projecting. We'll talk about why multiple attempts can actually help you break through to the next grade. And it helps to build skill and learning how to just climb better. We'll also explore how projecting can actually backfire on you. So we'll break down the benefits of sticking with a climb for multiple tries, what a good attempt really looks like, why some climbers move on too quickly and kind of get this shiny object syndrome, the real reason why you might get stuck at your current grade, and when it's time to walk away from a project. I'll also share just a simple framework to help you make your projecting sessions feel more intentional, so you're not just throwing yourself at every attempt and hoping that something just clicks along the way. All right, so let's get into it. So let's frame the question, how many times should I give a climb? Or how many attempts should I give a climb? So on the surface, this may sound like a tactical question about your overall effort, but underneath, it's really a deeper question about your intentions as a climber. Are you here to send quickly, or are you here to learn and grow? Are you chasing the joy of movement, or are you chasing the dopamine of adding a new send to your tick list? So this question opens the door to a much bigger personal question. What are you actually trying to get out of your time while climbing? When I dig in further about why clients might not be interested in giving more than just one or two tries, or maybe those who don't like to project, I often hear, if I don't send in a few tries, I'm just going to move on. Or projecting is super frustrating and it makes me feel weak. I like to flash things. I just don't want to spend a ton of time constantly falling. And this is all legit. And these are all relatable thought patterns that climbers, I would say at every level experience, or, every level they're thinking these things as well. So you might even relate to these on some days and not others. And I know that personally, I have days where I don't want to give a climb more attention and I want to stop just after a few goes. This is often related to mental fatigue, or maybe it's by the people that I'm surrounded by. Like I may feel scared to fail in front of certain people. Maybe when there's an expectation that I should be sending a certain thing, or maybe the group vibe just feels a little off to me. And so I have definitely felt all of these things before. Let's start with the first one. So if I don't send in a few tries, I'm just going to move on. This mindset is often a mix of ego, confidence, and could be social dynamics. This mindset rewards quicker sends, and it feels validating as a climber. Like, see, I can send things. So this means that repeated failure feels like the opposite. By avoiding attempts, you're protecting how you feel about yourself as a climber. So that's just my attempt on this first limiting belief of if I don't send in a few tries, I move on. So now the second one, which is projecting is frustrating. It makes me feel weak. It kind of hurts my ego. Projecting, honestly, it does feel mentally taxing when you can't really complete most of the moves and you may not believe that you can make progress on something. But there is a myth that strong climbers flash everything, and that working on a climb means that you're doing something wrong. So instead of embracing the learning process, some climbers will just avoid projecting altogether. But I'm here to tell you that it is not an easy process. And then the third one, which is I just like to flash things. I don't want to spend time failing. And my guess is that this mindset is about the illusion of mastery. So you are trying to master this craft. And so you're showing people, hey, you know what? I can send, because falling over and over again can really feel very messy, very uncomfortable, and it might expose your greatest weaknesses. And so you're going to avoid projecting. Other reasons why climbers avoid projecting: some people find it a waste of time to project because it means that they're missing out on sending all of these other climbs, and it stops them from covering a lot of terrain. Now, this is totally legit because I do know some folks who will only project and not get on top of anything for a whole season. However, projecting, it doesn't have to and shouldn't have to happen all the time. There is a strategy on how to schedule your week so that you're focusing on projecting 1 or 2 times a week and that you're working on other things the rest of the week. Projecting also requires a lot of discomfort. It requires a lot of patience and strategic repetition, which can be emotionally very difficult compared to the physical nature of climbing. And some people might avoid projecting because they don't know how to project, or maybe they don't know how to measure success in the projecting process. So one of the main words that projecting is relating to is failure. And this is, I think, the biggest pain point of projecting. So let's reframe the word failure as a learning tool instead. And we're going to talk about beginner's mind first. And beginner's mind is approaching each attempt with curiosity and openness, as if you're seeing the climb for the first time, even after multiple attempts. So when you approach each attempt with a beginner's mind, you should feel kind of this, it almost feels like you're being free from the outcome. It makes you feel a little bit more present in the moment so that you can tinker and problem solve while also having fun in the process. So next time you go on project, I encourage you to try a beginner's mindset. Then with each attempt you take, you're getting a closer look at your process. You end up being able to question things, and it gives you a chance to refine your beta, to figure out what your breathing is, your pacing is, and what your body position is. And the last thing about failure, and I'm going to relate this more to the tech bro attitude, and I'm not saying that you should do this, but the whole point of failing fast and break things is not going to work here, because often what's going to break is your body if you're moving too quickly through the process, and if you're not giving yourself enough time to reflect on your own movement or how you feel about any of it. And this just adds to more of the hustle and grind that we already experience in our culture. And I'm not about to introduce that into my own climbing, because climbing to me is sacred. It feels beautiful and it's really fun. So when you think about failure, think of it more as curiosity. Step forward and look at things curiously. So this basically brings us to the next step, which is, what is a good attempt? So when you're projecting, you're going to give multiple attempts, and it is imperative to understand what a good attempt is compared to a bad attempt. I don't really like good and bad, but knowing what a good attempt is and trying to replicate that each time is going to keep moving you forward. So when we apply a beginner's mindset to a good attempt, it means that we're adding curiosity as the main ingredient of each attempt. Often there might be a personal expectation that you should send on the next attempt, but what if instead you approach it with, I wonder how this next attempt will go if I change my foot placement, or if I apply more tension to my leg during this next move. It's like trying a new flavor of donut. I love donuts. You know that donuts are good generally, and when you try something new, the taste is enhanced and it pulls you more into the present, and you might enjoy it a little bit more because it's so new. So think about that when it comes to each attempt. Can you approach it with curiosity, less expectation, and with a little bit more openness? I do want to introduce a new acronym. I love my acronyms. My favorite one for on-sighting that I came up with is the RAVE acronym. I'm not going to go over that in this podcast, but I did want to suggest something a little different. It is similar to the RAVE acronym, but this new acronym might give you a little bit more flexibility in how you approach projecting, and it is a little less prescriptive. So this acronym is the SEND approach, SEND, where S stands for study. So this is where you're going to watch others, you're going to watch your own videos, you're going to visualize yourself going through the moves. And this is a great time to start the process of curiosity. E stands for experiment. This is where you're going to try new beta. You're going to try maybe a different sequence. You could even ask for a power spot or an assist through a move, or you can try moves in isolation or sequences in isolation. The N stands for notice and name. So what worked and what didn't in your previous attempts? And this is where curiosity is really going to show up. I want you to put the beginner's mindset on and really go through every attempt and feel it in your body to help you understand what was working and what wasn't. And then lastly, the D, which is decide. What will you change on the next attempt? Now, you can try a climb many times and make absolutely zero progress. And this will happen. It's rare because I bet you can find a point of progress with every attempt. But if 70% of your attempts look the same and you're doing the same thing, you're not really projecting. You're really just repeating the same thing over and over, which leads to madness, and you're not going to make any progress. So let's define what a good attempt is. It has curiosity, there's intentionality, there's letting go of outcomes, there's being honest about your effort. Did you give this your best go, or were you hesitant and fearful? And as a side tangent, trying hard and being self-compassionate can actually exist simultaneously. I know many perfectionists, I train many of them, who will make progress, they'll try really hard, yet they never give themselves credit for putting in that effort. Giving your full effort and still failing is the most vulnerable situation to be in climbing. This is what makes projecting super uncomfortable. So if this speaks to you, I want you to be proud of yourself. Instead of beating yourself up because you didn't reach the expectations that you put on yourself, it's time to try the beginner's mindset, let go, try hard, and relish in your efforts. And the last thing I want to mention about what a good attempt includes, this is resting times and feeling recovered before your next attempt. A common mistake I see with projecting is giving too many attempts in a very short amount of time. Make sure that you're resting at least 3 to 5 minutes between hard attempts. And really, the one thing I like, a good rule of thumb that I have heard is give yourself a minute of rest for every move that you've just done. Resting ensures that you are recovering, that your muscles are actually getting re-energized so that you feel fresh before your next attempt. If you don't feel fresh before your next attempt, I wouldn't try yet. I would just continue to rest, hydrate, eat a snack, and then try again. I also see a lot of folks who get right back on the start holds if they fall off halfway. This is especially true for boulders. Just don't do this. Even if it's only a few moves that you've done, you've already taxed your muscles and you need to mentally reset anyway. So if you fall and it's an unexpected fall, it's okay. Laugh it off, maybe shake it off, take a short break and reset to start the next attempt well. So what happens when you give a climb multiple attempts? So here are the benefits. You develop skill. You're also building strength here, but really it's the skill of the movement for that particular climb. So repeated efforts gives your nervous system a chance to dial in the specific motor patterns. You start to move more efficiently, you refine your footwork, and you get better at the timing of your body's momentum. And with each attempt, you build tactical decision-making skills. You'll learn more about how much rest you need, how to reposition your body, and when to fully commit. This is really hard to learn if you're always trying something new. The next benefit is that you're building awareness under pressure. Pressure is a funny thing. It can either help you or it can ruin you. The more you practice climbing under some pressure, the more you're going to learn about your own flow and getting into your zone. Essentially, your awareness sharpens. You notice the subtle shifts in your body, such as your breathing and how your breathing affects your tension and your grip strength in your body. This kind of awareness helps you to stay composed during your session, even when things aren't always going perfectly. The next benefit of trying multiple attempts is that it improves your mental capacity. Projecting really does teach you to sit in frustration. This isn't a great feeling, but you get fitness in this frustration. And you may find space to stay more curious even when you're failing. And you may even start to trust that every effort that you're giving is going to compound more over time. And this is like the projecting process is more than just trying harder. When you are strategizing your projecting, you're going to know what you're missing. And it isn't always effort. A lot of the time, it might not be effort. It could just be some tension that's leaking somewhere in your body, or maybe you're not memorizing things just right. It could be a precision issue. So when it comes to projecting, it isn't just about trying hard. And I would say more often it's more about these little things that you're missing over just commit more or just try harder. And the last benefit I'm just going to bring up, there's so many more benefits, but when you are trying multiple times, you create more consistent progress. I know that quick sends feel great, but they don't always teach you something. When you project intentionally, you collect little wins along the way. Maybe you solve a mini crux, you're linking a couple moves together, you're improving your beta, you're feeling more efficient, you feel like you're flowing. All of these wins add up. And I personally have learned the most about myself as a climber when I've had really long-term projects. Going through that grind has really helped me become a better climber. And I believe this for you as well. So here are some other random thoughts about projecting. It often takes hours to project a climb, especially if you're projecting outdoors. So if this is the case, make sure that you're hydrating and eating snacks through your session. So just remember from many of my past podcasts that if your session lasts more than 60 to 90 minutes, you have to be fueling more consistently through your session, because really with every attempt, you're giving so much energy away to that attempt. And so you have to refuel. So make sure that you're consistently doing this. And I often recommend a snack that has a combination of carbohydrates and protein. And when you're drinking your water, it could actually have some electrolytes in it, because when you're well hydrated, it's going to allow your muscles to contract more efficiently. So make sure you're staying on top of these things. Another point I want to talk about is your support system. Make sure that you're well supported. The group that you're climbing with should be or should have your best interests at heart. They will cheer you on, give you spots, they'll give you time, and they'll prioritize your climbing. And this goes for you as a supporter as well. So don't always prioritize your own climbing. Make sure that you're chatting as a group and coming up with a plan that day of what you want to get on, especially if you're going outside. I really like to make sure that everyone has an equal amount of time to get on the climb that they want, and they also get equal attention, because the worst thing is when you're maybe the weakest climber in the group, you might get this feeling that people are bored at your project. And this is just not a great feeling. Trust me, I have been there. I have been that climber many, many times. And honestly, I prefer to climb with people who care about me and care about my progress and give me the attention that I need and want when I'm projecting. And a final note is that someone else's progress on a project doesn't take away from your own progress. I want to cover 2 more topics. When should you move on a project? And what are the pitfalls of projecting too much? All right, so the first one, when should you move on? So when you're moving on, I don't want you to think about it as giving up. This is being real with your energy and how your body feels. So if you're feeling like you're gassed, or maybe you are frustrated, or you're feeling a little checked out, then I want you to rest and recover. Maybe take a couple weeks off of this project and come back feeling fresh. If your attempts are getting worse within the session, where you're actually noticing a regression, that doesn't mean you're getting weak. It means that your nervous system is actually just getting fatigued and your muscles are getting fatigued. So it's best to stop as you notice kind of that first sign of regression, and stop the session and move on. You may actually do much better on a different climb that day, especially if you haven't given many attempts. So just keep that in mind. It doesn't mean that you're weak if you're seeing a regression. Your nervous system really takes on a lot in these high pressure situations, especially in projecting. So just remember that for yourself. I generally say that 3 to 5 attempts is a good first guideline for any project, but add more if you feel good. And you could create a structure for each projecting session, such as maybe your first 3 attempts are warm-up attempts. You're not really trying super hard, but you're just sussing out the movement. You're getting your mind ready. You're putting on your beginner's mindset. So then if you have all of the moves dialed, then you could give 2 really good attempts at trying to send. If you don't have all of the moves dialed, then make sure that you're going through those moves first. And this may take you 10 attempts. You may have to give a couple of attempts on one move before you get it, and then isolate another crux and try a couple of attempts until you get it. And then you can give yourself a nice big rest and then try to give it a couple goes where you're trying to start from the beginning and finishing it out. And then before leaving your session, ask yourself, did I give a really all-out effort yet? And if the answer is no, then give it your one last big effort. And if it doesn't go, that's okay. At least you tried. But who knows, you might surprise yourself and send. All right, so the pitfalls of projecting, and let's be honest, like projecting isn't always the best use of time, and it's worth knowing when it could be holding you back. Projecting, I have seen this many times, it can lead to burnout physically and mentally. When you're giving multiple hard attempts, it's going to wear you down physically and mentally. So repeated failure without a strategy can be super demoralizing. So if you're new to projecting, have a plan that you're going to limit your expectations, but really you're going to approach every attempt with this beginner's mindset, lead with curiosity. Now, the next pitfall could be that you actually lose your joy of climbing. If every session turns into a mental grind, and especially if this is just happening on one climb, then you're missing out on the fun. And it also means that you're not mixing things up enough. So make sure you're paying attention to how many times you're going to your project and that you're feeling this way, because really climbing is all about variety and play and fun, and not always pushing yourself to exhaustion. The next pitfall in projecting is actually losing your movement capacity. When you spend all of your time on one climb, you're training specifically for that climb and at the expense of adaptability. You might get really good at that climb, but miss the chance to build this broader base of movement skill with varied strength and movement demands. So you might notice that your overall fitness does decline. Now, for folks who have a pretty long outdoor season, almost everyone that I've talked to who does this will notice a significant decrease in strength and fitness. And that's okay. You can always get it back, especially if you're chasing something. Just make sure that it feels healthy for you and that, again, it feels joyful. And the last one is really projecting might not align with your goals. If your aim is to have fun and to explore a lot of climbs, you can always do short sessions that are fun with a lot of variety. And if you notice that projecting just puts you into a negative spiral, then you don't have to project. But I do suggest looking at that. What is it about projecting for you that makes you feel negatively about yourself? And that might give you some clues. And, this might bleed into other areas of your life, not just climbing. Because I really do think, climbing is a way of life. It is a philosophy. And it's how I've learned so much about myself. All right. Lastly, to wrap this up, I just want to remind you to lead with curiosity. So next time you project, try on the beginner's mindset. See how it changes your perspective. Does it bring you more into the present moment? Does it give you more space for fun? And projecting means that you are working on a climb that is very challenging for you. And actually, it doesn't even matter what the grade is, because you could project a climb that is at the same grade as a lot of your on-sites. So the grade doesn't matter. It's more about the challenge that you are facing. And if you're facing a challenge like this, you have to bring a mindset that complements this. So you need next level patience and next level refinement. So projecting teaches you how to fill in the gap and improve over time. So if you ever ask yourself, how many tries should I give? I'd rather have you ask, what can I learn from each try? All right, so that's it for today. I hope you learned something about projecting. Maybe you learned something about yourself. And that is it. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll catch you in the next one.